Any? Like to call the December 18th, 2024 meeting of the Mount Pleasant Zoning Board of Appeals in order. Ask the secretary to call the roll.
Havels,
Here.
McGuire,
Here.
Orlick,
Here?
Hennison, absent, Stressman.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, record reflects we do have a quorum tonight. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Any requests for change in the agenda, additions, subtractions, changes? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Motion, oh, go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, moved from Stressman, supported. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved as it was distributed to us. Next item of business, the approval of the minutes of April 24. Any corrections or additions to those? I have one small one on page 4, 4 paragraphs up from the bottom, second line. Orlick commented he agreed with Tyson about the need to have something that addresses car dealerships and noted that it should be there rather than that. Noted there is nothing the zoning board of appeals can do. So just a minor correction there. It should be there rather than that. Any other changes to the minutes of April 24? Okay, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, support?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the April 24 minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and those minutes are now approved. Okay. Next item is communications. Manuel, are there any communications to report this evening?
We did not receive any communications except for those pertaining to the case, which I'm going to be mentioning during my presentation and
Okay,
afterwards.
very good. Okay, so other communications, we'll be going on from that. Next item on our agenda is the public comment section. Public comment is where anyone from the public, either here or virtually, who wishes to comment on anything, bringing anything to the attention of the ZBA is welcome to do so, with the exception of things pertaining to the case tonight, because those will all be handled separately. So, is there anyone here present who wishes to make any comments during the public comment section? Okay, seeing none, do we have any virtual communications?
There's no one virtually.
Okay, no virtual communications, so I will therefore close the public comment section, and we will move to our public hearings. We have one public hearing scheduled for this evening, ZBA 24-02, 1203 South Mission, a request really for several variances that relate to that particular property or the potential use of that property. So at this point, I would ask, I'm going to do something a little bit different here because I think this has the potential to get kind of confusing. And so what I want us to do this evening, since we have 3 variances, there are 4 on your agenda, but one has been taken care of by staff and planning. I would like to deal with each of those separately, so we're not cross-pollinating them and getting them confusing. So I would like to then start off with the request to exceed the 15-foot front setback from the facade. And so then, Manuela, if you would address that one.
Whoa. So we're going to have 5 presentations?
You'll have
Or
3.
3?
3.
I don't
Excuse
think
me,
that makes any
I'm going
sense.
to step down and recuse myself at this
Okay,
point.
and at this point, I was going to let you do that a little later, Steve, but Commissioner, our
I'm
board
not-
member.
I'm not confused, or you could, I mean, I don't think we need, I think she can make
You
the
want to do them all?
Yeah, let's just run
Okay,
it.
if you want to do them all, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm not
And
confused
yes,
at all.
Commissioner Stressen, we're going to mention that in a few moments. He has a conflict of interest, so he is stepping down, and therefore we will we'll go from there. Once we get into the case, let me, for the record, make clear how things work. The staff introduces the case, and we decided we can handle all three variance requests at one. There was originally four. One was decided by the Planning Commission and by city staff, that one, in fact, that particular issue was addressed by the zoning ordinance, so we didn't need to worry about that. So we are dealing with three of them. The appellant will be allowed to come forward and explain his or her appeal after staff has made their presentation of the case. And at that point, the board can ask the appellant any questions that they have. So that, of course, includes expressing the reason why the variance, in this case variances, are reasonable. We then open public hearing. Anyone requesting to speak at the public hearing is welcome to do so. They'll be allowed to speak only once, and they need to, of course, give their name and address, and that pertains both to people who are here in the audience and people who will be doing that virtually. The board at that point will have the opportunity to ask any questions of the applicant that they may wish to do so. And at that point then, we will open to public comment. Again, each person can speak once who wishes to engage in public comment. After that, then the board will enter into discussion. Any motion that we make here has to be in the positive. That does not mean that the person making the motion will necessarily vote for it. It simply means, for no confusion, a motion is always in the positive. And that's been the procedure that we have followed for decades. It requires 3 positive votes for a motion to pass. 3 positive votes. And now we have kind of a confluence of issues here. Number 1, our chairman is out of the state. Number 2, the city commission has yet to appoint an alternate. Number 3, as we mentioned a little while ago, a board member Stressman had a conflict of interest. So that being the case, you can see there are 3 members up here. And so all 3 members would need to vote for a variance for it to be granted. And you have the right, the appellant has the right in those cases, those situations, to ask for a postponement to another meeting when the board would be more full. That's entirely up to you. We don't have to give permission. That's entirely up to you. Realize that if a variance is denied, it cannot be brought back before this board for a minimum of 1 calendar year. So it has to be brought back later after 1 year. So that's always something that we want to make sure people really understand. So having said all those things then, and making sure that you understand it, so I would ask the appellant right now, given that scenario, those situations, do you still wish us to proceed with this case tonight or not? We do, okay. Let it show in the record that the appellant does wish to proceed in any case. And now we'll turn it over to Manuela, if you would present the case, please.
Okay. Good evening. The case that we have for tonight has been identified as case 24-02. The applicant, Brew Horizons LLC, represented by Dennis Proto, would like to develop a vacant parcel located at 1203 South Mission Street as a 7-brew drive-through beverage establishment. There was previously an office building there, and that building has been demolished since 2020, so the parcel has remained vacant since then. The parcel is zoned CD5, where drive-thrus can be permitted pursuant to a special use permit. So the proposal will need to get a planning commission approval for both SUP and SPR, site plan review. And then the other thing to note is that the applicant had originally requested the 4 variances, which the vice chair already mentioned. And one important element is that the applicant is requesting the board to consider the open canopy as the facade where measurements are taken after working directly with city staff to reduce the number and the level of variances that would need to be requested to make their project work. So the proposed canopy was increased in size to as a much larger canopy to lessen the impacts of the variance requests. So the very first request is to exceed the maximum 15 feet front setback to 29 feet. The second one is to allow the drive-through opening for the service to be placed less than 20 feet back from the front facade and instead be placed approximately 5 feet from the front facade. The third is to allow the main entrance to the building to be placed on the side elevation instead of the front facade as required by the zoning ordinance. And then the fourth one that we're not need to visit tonight was for the reduction of the 60% frontage built out to 10.6%, but that was approved in the Planning Commission in a work session and would be approved formally at site plan review. So that said, I'll carry over the presentation with the other 3 variance requests, 1, 2, and 3 on this slide. This is the current aerial of the site to help with context. Taco Bell is located north of the site. An office building is located south. China Master is located on the west side of the parcel across Mission. And the parcel located to the east is occupied by a multiple family apartment building. This is the current view of the site looking northeast from Mission Street. The current 5 off-street parking spots, which is part of the office building, is shown here in this picture. And where the cars are parked, that you can see there a little bit further to the left, is the subject parcel. This is the current view of the Taco Bell entrance with the subject site located behind the line of trees that you see here in the middle of the picture. Regarding the area zoning and land use, while this parcel, the north parcel and the south and west parcels are all zoned CD5, the parcels located to the east of the property is zoned CD4. The future land use map flags this area for mixed-use medium development, which shall consist of medium-density area that has a mix of building types and residential, retail, personal service, office, and business commercial uses that are medium, shallow, or no front setbacks and narrow to medium side setbacks. It has variable private landscaping, and it has streets with curbs, sidewalks, and thoroughfare trees that define medium-sized blocks. All that said, let's now dive into the zoning ordinance requirements by first stating some definitions that are very important to this case. The ordinance defines facade as being an exterior wall of a building that is set along a frontage line. So first, the facade requires a wall. Therefore, a canopy, while considered part of the building, isn't a facade by definition. And 2, the facade is only the wall facing the frontage and not the walls that face the side and rear portions of the lot. Second, setback is by definition the area of a lot measured from a lot line to a building facade or elevation, which area is maintained clear of permanent structures with the exception of permitted encroachments. All that said, here's a screenshot of the CD5 regulations that come into play, and I'm going to mention them because it's a very busy slide here. The very first red box is highlighting the minimum and maximum front setback requirements, which is 0 feet and 15-foot maximum. Again, these measurements must be taken from the front wall or facade of the building to the front lot line. The second red box is showing the height requirement for this district. Just to note that this rule has been changed to not only require 2 stories in CD5 districts anymore. That's why that is not a variance request. Instead, the Planning Commission, City Commission had approved in fall of 2024 to keep the minimum height of 24 feet. The applicant is proposing an overall height of 21 feet, which meets the minimum requirement of 24 feet plus the 10% administrative waiver that could be approved by the Planning Commission during site plan review. Next, we're showing the frontage build-out requirement of 60% also for context, but again, this rule is no longer applicable for this project after the Planning Commission considered to grant the administrative waiver at the time of an SUP SPR review. The fourth box highlights the rules that require the main entrance to be in the facade of the principal frontage, which in this case would have to be the west facade. Such facade is being proposed with glazing, but not an entrance, since the proposed service area layout requires the whole frontage to have the coffee and other machines and counter space for staff to create the beverages. Last, the last highlighted rule here on the next page shows that drive-throughs are limited or are permitted only within the third lot layer, which by definition is essentially the area bounded by the rear and side lot lines and a line that is offset 20 feet from the frontage line of the building. And that's the second lot layer. So now to discuss the proposed site plan, the team decided that we would like to show you the several site plan drafts that the staff has worked on with the applicant to explain the proposal and variance requests. This first concept is what was originally submitted by the applicant to planning staff to conduct a preliminary zoning review. The originally proposed site plan had too many zoning non-compliances, as you can see here, and was not a much pedestrian-friendly design, which is one of the ultimate goals of our zoning ordinance and master plan. The only benefit of this first proposed site plan was to have a single drive approach. After a few meetings and amendments, planning staff has worked directly with the applicant to bring the proposed building as close to the front line as possible to reduce the number of variances needed and help meet the general goals of the master plan and zoning. So the third site plan that you can see here achieved a more pedestrian-friendly design and had less zoning non-compliances. However, the city engineer did not think that the proposed shared driveway was safe enough, as it will lead to too much traffic conflict between vehicles coming into 7 Brew and vehicles coming out of the office building. That said, the staff met and the city engineer sketched 2 alternative options to try to improve safety, and we discussed those options. The issue with this first option, option A, that was drafted by the city engineer, was that when staff approached the office building lot owner, they were not comfortable with needing to send their customers around the entire 7 Brew site to exit on Mission. So they did not agree with this approach of allowing 7 Brew customers to utilize their existing drive approach that would have been changed and modified in terms of location. Option B, also drafted by the city engineer, created a much safer access plan for both the 7 Brew site and the office site, but it also required the office clients to go around 7 Brew site to exit on Mission. And after speaking with the owner, myself, we were not able to get into an agreement. The third modified site plan included landscaping and shifted the drive approach to be entirely within their site, but there was still the issue of not providing a direct exit for the office clients. And then the final proposed site plan is the one that you see in the packet and is much closer to zoning compliance. Just to zoom in a little bit more in the site plan and show the setback dimensions, you can see here that the canopy is going all the way until the maximum 15-foot setback line, and the building offsets another 14 feet after that. This is the north elevation showing the service door used to bring the beverages to the customers in their vehicles. And then in this slide, we're highlighting the comparison between the required frontage build-out and the canopy versus the building footprint. But again, just note that the 6% is not part of the conversation, but our building official wanted you to see the different requirements. To close, here are some renderings of the site, with the first showing the drive-through service area north of the site. And then this one shows the driveway entrance with the landscaped area and canopy proposed use. So the use of the canopy would be for a picnic table, a bike rack, and that would be mostly trying to accommodate patrons coming either by foot or bicycle or other mode of transportation. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and if any board member has a question, please let me know.
Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. All right, if the applicant would like to come forward, give your name, address, and make your presentation, please.
Good evening. My name is John Shabaum with BFA. I am the civil engineer on the project representing Brew Horizons. Dennis Proto is with me. He is the owner and franchisee on the project. So if we ever get to a spot where you have questions that I can't answer, we can turn it over to Dennis and he can help us out.
Sure.
So the first thing I'm going to do is thank Manuela and Brian and all the city staff for their help, because we've spent a lot of time working with them on this and really appreciate the input that they've given us. As you kind of saw in her presentation, we started with a layout that had a lot of zoning nonconformities. So we've been working over the course of months to come up with a layout to minimize that. First thing I want to do is talk about Seven Brew. Are any of you guys familiar with Seven Brew or their operations at all? Okay, so I'm going to flip this to our site plan. Well, is there a way that I can click the PowerPoint? Is that easier? Would you guys like this board or the PowerPoint better? You can go with that right there?
Yeah.
That works. Okay. So on the screen with this layout, what happens at a Seven Brew is it's a drive-through service, so most of our service is going to be through vehicles coming into our site. We have 2 serving lanes. We can do that with Seven Brew because there is no menu board and there's no pickup window. So when I say that, it's not like a fast food restaurant where you have to drive up to a window to get your order. What happens is they will have an employee walk around the site with an iPad or a tablet and take your order at the car window. So if there is only one car at this Seven Brew location, you will pull underneath that canopy where the stop is on lane 1, and they'll meet you right at your window. If there's 10 cars at this location during the busy time, they will walk back to your car at the 10th person and take your order right there. So you can see the sidewalk at the rear of the Seven Brew, how it follows that drive-through lane and stops towards the rear. That's the intention of that, is for an employee to be able to walk that far back and still be taking orders for customers. So there's 2 lanes. You see the striped area between lane 1 and lane 2. That's where an employee is able to kind of get to the window of a person in lane 2. Now, after you get your order taken, you drive up to the canopy or to the stop bars, and someone will run the drink out to you. So they're operating out of those 2 front doors on the Seven Brew, and they're walking it out to your car. So that gives us the flexibility to serve out of 2 lanes, allows us to be efficient in service, and gets people in and out of the site as quick as possible. Any questions on that before I move on? And you guys can circle back to that if you need to. So now I'm going to get into the variances that we're talking about. So the first one is the 15-foot front building setback. So in Brian's report, we kind of discussed the difference between the facade and the building. Seven Brew is a national coffee shop, and this is a prototypical building, and they replicate this building all across the country due to its efficiency. So the whole purpose of our layout on the site is to get people in and out of the site, trying to make coffee and serve beverages as quick as possible. So the building layout is made so that employees could work at different locations. Operators or franchisees who are running multiple locations, they don't have to relearn, or we're not able to modify this building footprint. What we are able to do, and what we have done with the help of city staff here, is to accommodate some of the intentions of the zoning code with our canopy. So on this site, in order to meet the 15-foot building setback, we have increased that front canopy by 10 feet. So what we're trying to accomplish is the nature of the code. So the nature of the code is to be pedestrian friendly, to have frontage along the main road, and to create that kind of atmosphere that the city is looking for. And we're hoping that we're accomplishing that with this canopy. So you can see under the canopy, we have bicycle parking, we have a table. So as I said before, Seven Brews mainly a automobile use. We're trying to make this one a little bit more pedestrian friendly. There is a door on the south side of that building. If you come along the sidewalk and you want to walk up to this Seven Brew and get a coffee, they will walk out that door and take your order right there, just as if you were in a car. Same thing with the bike, if you ride your bike. Bike parking also for employees. So we're kind of creating that community atmosphere. To move the building closer, if we wanted to meet the intention of this code perfectly, we would have our drive-through too close to the road. That's kind of where we started with this. It started as a safety aspect. We tried to move that building right up to the 15-foot building setback, but then you don't even have a car length to stack waiting to turn on to South Mission Street. So that's where we got into the canopy aspect and how can we use that to satisfy the code and create a safe site plan. Manuela has also gone to Planning Commission with these concerns, and there was a memo in the staff report that kind of summarized that and shared our same concerns. So I think that's out there that the city is kind of having some thought processes of this automobile use or a drive-through use is difficult to meet the full extent of the codes. Number two, for the 20-foot setback for the service window. Like I said before, Seven Brew is kind of a unique use. We don't have a specific service window. We're walking things out to our customer. So with this requirement, we use the canopy once again to provide that buffer between where we would consider the front of the building, whereas the codes are saying front facade. So that's kind of the interpretation that we're looking for on this request. Number three, the main entrance on the front facade. Similar to the canopy use, we're trying to create an open atmosphere. So there is no internal access for customers to this building. It's such a small footprint that it's employee only. So we would never really have a main entrance for customers to this building. So to open it up to customers, open it up to pedestrians, we're increasing this canopy area, and we're in a way creating that front main entrance to our property using the canopy. So I'm hoping that through this process, you guys are understanding that we've worked with staff. We're not trying to avoid the codes. We're trying to find the best solution for our use on this site. Internal operations of the site, if we would need to put a main entrance on the front facade of the building, it seems like something simple to do. Like I said, with Seven Brew being a national operator, right there on the front is where we have all of the equipment for coffee and all their operations. With the doors on each side, the way you're serving the coffee, it would, that small of a footprint, it just almost ruins the entire building, and it's not plausible on our end for that. And with that, I will turn it back over to you guys for any questions.
Okay, on your schematic up here,
Yeah.
it's showing very light, it's showing 3 vehicles. It looks like one's in front of lane 1, one's in front of lane 2, and the other one is elsewhere. And yet we're talking about 2 drive-throughs, so what's the third vehicle doing?
That is an aerial image of the site in the background, so those are just cars that were parked on Google Earth.
Oh, okay.
So those aren't really.
That would not happen. We would
Yeah.
have 3 lanes.
Yeah, no.
Because I was getting really confused
Yeah.
about that.
No, that's people parking at the vacant parking lot, right, at the Google Earth image.
Okay. Now, you only serve beverages, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So the selection would be relatively limited so that when we go from the iPad it's to the thing would be very quick.
Yep.
In this plan, have you figured out how many cars in the two stacks combined could be there without a problem, without backing out into Mission?
So on this one, there's quite a bit. So we have dimensions on this. So the inside lane has 200 feet. The outside lane has 255 feet. We say an average car length is 20 feet. So you've got 10 on the inside and you've got 12 on the outside. So that's 22 just to get to the lane 1 and lane 2 markers right there. When we work with 7 Brew Corporate, the preferred stacking is somewhere in the range of 14 to 15 cars. So we're exceeding corporate's number plus quite a bit on the site.
Okay. Do you know how much distance is between your egress from the property and Taco Bell's egress from their property?
I can get that for you. Center to center is about 85 feet. From inside curb to inside curb, which would be the shortest measurement possible, is 50 feet.
Okay, all right. And I have one other more global question. I've been doing this zoning boards a long time, decades, and I can't recall one that had so many multiple variances for one property. And so my question would be, given that, why did you pick this particular locale as opposed to other locales where you would have had a lot less problem for you and staff to making it fit?
Yeah, and I'll turn it over to Dennis for that.
Okay, Dennis, if you'd come up here, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dennis Brodo. So we actually worked with Ben Weller when this came up, and we looked at properties up and down the road.
Okay.
I mean, we gotta be on the strip there, and it's all the same zoning. So no matter where we were gonna pick a spot, there's a couple of lots that were closer to the college. I would have to be going for the same exact variances.
Okay.
So that's, we tried.
So that was one of your principal priorities, was to be near CMU? Did I understand you correct?
It's to be in the retail corridor, the big boxes and everything that's there. I mean, that's the synergy. Also the college. I mean, our product is college students. Our employees are high school, college students. It's a great vibe. It's a cultural thing. You probably haven't seen it all. We have 300 units now, and we're in 31 states. We're doubling every year. So it's new, but it is really a culture. It's one of our mottos is cultivating kindness, right? It's, and these kids are there, no phones, no cell phones. As soon as they come in, they put them in cups, and then they're working. They're interacting with the customers. It's something that's just kind of the way that this flows, and why we do it is exactly for that reason, because it's more of getting to know your customers, talking with them every morning, and then getting the fast delivery and getting out. So yes, the choice was all of that, the synergies, the college students, yes.
Okay, and speaking of that, the one other thing I'm unclear about is your workers, your employees, moving to take orders from lane 1 to lane 2 without having them be in a safety situation.
Yeah, okay, so I have 25 of these opened up now. Over the last 2 years, I've seen them busy, I've seen them slow. So the cars aren't moving fast. I don't know if you've ever been to like a Chick-fil-A with the textures. So it's similar to that. They're walking along the outside, and then we have that hashed area. And then when we deliver the drinks, the cars are stopped, and they're bringing them out to them. It's not like it's a fast, like the cars are zipping in and zipping out. I can say I've done it. I'm knocking on wood. We have not had any issues whatsoever with any of the employees and texting and ordering in cars.
So your employees would be instructed not to move cross lane 1 into 2 if cars were still moving toward that?
There's a whole safety program that's done. We do testing every 2 weeks that they have to, after their second week of training and working, there's a safety test. They have to get a 90 or above to actually keep on operating in the stores, knowing what they're doing. So yeah, that's part of it.
Other questions? Yes.
So I just want to kind of clarify what
Yeah.
Peter was asking there. It's a depth issue on the lot, right? So I mean, if you, as far as choosing this spot versus another spot, we got the same depth, so we're going to have the same problem, no, whether it was on North Mission or South Mission or wherever you went, right?
Correct. We have to
it
be up on
doesn't-
the front. I'm
And it
sorry.
doesn't even matter that you want to be near the university. It's anywhere on Mission Street you would have. a
Anywhere on
problem.
Mission Street, anywhere we're up and
Okay.
down that road, we'd run into all the same issues. And I think, and what we tried to do with Manuela and Brian and Cohen, is that we are asking for 3 variances. But they're, I mean, again, the facade, I mean, you could, I mean, we're bringing it out. I think the reason of the facade and what you're trying to do is get that vision on the front of the road, right, 15 feet. So we're doing that with our building. I mean, I could put a wall down and make it compliant, and it's gonna look ugly. So I think what we did with that and the trees, and part of our vibe, those windows in the front, that's the coffee machine. Everyone's in there making drinks. You're watching it happen, you're watching them, and there's things going on. That's part of the show, part of the product, is that part. So again, I think that's what we're trying to do with that, with this facade and the canopy, is to bring that out. So we're doing that. I think the other one with the door that we're asking for, we're not a typical drive-through with a window, so it's kind of hard for us to be held, like, say, here's our window, because we don't have a kiosk. What we're saying is, we are, what, 18 and a half? Yeah. So we're 18 and a half, we're asking for almost, what, 2.5 more?
18 and a half from the canopy. I think it's
Yeah.
3 feet from the technical facade.
And then the third one on the door, we don't have public entrance. So I think part of that whole ordinance about having a front door on the street is customers are going into the front door and not going in the back of the door, like a bar or something like that. We're all employees, so your employees always go in the side doors, so this is a business front door, it's not a public front door. So to this point, with what we're trying to do and what I think what you want to see is not a front door in our building, but see what we're showing. We'll have bike racks, we'll have our workers working there making the drinks, and we'll have a picnic table and trees. So it's, I hear that, I know I've been doing this a long time, but I did gas stations before this, and variances and special exceptions were brutal. I don't think I'm in that category with these. I think honestly, when I did this and we talked to Manuela and this, and they said, go for it, I don't think these 3 variances, yes, there's 3 variances, you're like, boom. But I truly think they're, and I don't want to minimize it, minor, and we've worked to minimize even the smallest variance on it to come to a variance. So we're not asking for a full variance, except for the door. I am. That just, but that's my take on it and why we decided to come
Great.
forward.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Just kind of a personal question.
Yeah.
I might already know the answer, but you said you've opened multiple amounts of these locations in different areas.
Yeah.
Do you see businesses like this that don't have like a traditional like place for people to come in, just employ only kind of like these smaller businesses kind of being, I wouldn't say the future of kind of like these kind of chains, but do you see them being a little bit more?
It's most definitely the trend in the QSR world.
trend, okay.
I mean, Taco Bell is going to drive-through only. Starbucks has some of their own prototypes to start driving. After COVID, unfortunately, people don't want to get out of the cars. They got used to not getting out of the cars. They want delivery. The drive-through is actually being something that's coming back a little stronger, and that's where QSRs, quick service, are trying to do. It's what the customer wants. Like they're not going in anymore. So that's where it is definitely trending to this way, to the drive-throughs.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Oh, that's all for me.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
We have
you very
anything
much for your
else? We'll
consideration.
invite you back up, gentlemen. Okay. Okay. Manuel, you mentioned something, the canopy is not considered part of the building, right?
It is considered part of the building, but not the facade, because the facade definition mentions a wall.
Right.
But it is considered part of the building, because the building is anytime you have a roof and a use, so it is part of the building.
Part of the building, but, yeah, okay. All right. Let me now then open this up for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on these proposals, on these three proposals? Anyone who wishes to comment here? Okay, do we have anybody in queue online or any written correspondence, Manuel?
I do see a raised hand here. So,
Okay.
yes, we do have somebody, Joseph Carrion. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and you can speak.
Yes, thank you. My name is Joseph Carrion. I live on 109 North Arnold Street, and I'm really happy about this establishment. I think it's a good thing for the city. My only concern has to be with the exit of the establishment, the double lane exit. If we are going away from Mission Street being the way it is and moving to a boulevard, I don't see the purpose of keeping it a double exit. And even for the time being, as Mission Street is now, a double lane exit poses a huge threat in safety. You know, we already had a head-on collision just this week, so I'm just trying to think of the safety concern of that double lane exit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
No, I do not see anybody on Zoom. Let me check emails. No emails.
Okay. Has there been any consideration at the planning commission stage or by staff about the double exits? Because the double exits would be the ones that would be closest to Taco Bell.
I would say that it would be better to have less lanes. However, when looking at the turning radius for the site, it would be very difficult to make it all merge into one lane. So from a safety standpoint, we couldn't figure out a way to reduce that. We do allow up to 24 feet as a right, and then up to 30 feet if there is an additional pedestrian feature that is added to the design.
So, yeah, at some point, you'd have to figure out where the two lanes merge, right? And all that, okay? Okay. And anyone else online who wishes to speak? All right, if not, close the public comment section, and we'll open it up for board discussion. One overall question I have about the first two, not really about the third one, because I think we've handled that one pretty well in the past, the where the door is. But in terms of any precedents that this might set outside of what the ordinance requires, whether this is going to open the door for several other kinds of businesses to say, well, it was granted here, why not for me?
Sure, yeah, I guess we could always, the ZBA cases end up being a precedent, right? So it is part of the planning exercise to look at variances that have been given in the short term and see if we need to amend the zoning ordinance. Based on the discussion that staff had with the Planning Commission on the December 5th meeting, I will say that there is an understanding that we currently have conflicts between allowable uses and bulk regulations, which is not something that we want to have in the zoning ordinance. So I did get the green light to look at the ordinance and amend some of these requirements, especially the one related to the setback, considering the amount of vehicles and traffic that you have in drive-through establishments and radiuses that we have to apply to ensure safety. So I would say yes for precedents, but I think we are in a time right now that we're revisiting the ordinance to make sure that we don't have as many conflicts.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bothered me. It wouldn't bother me that we suddenly have a parade of people citing this as a precedent
Sure.
and therefore doing an end run around the ordinance.
Well, can I just, the one big problem with the ordinance that we have to look at is, and I'm in the real estate business, I've had people tell me this, they're not coming to Mount Pleasant because they can't put a drive-through on Mission Street. End of story, period. Well, that's a pretty big damper on your development. So, I mean, it's a big issue because they just can't fit them in there.
Let me ask our planning commission crossover member, do you sense on the planning commission a move toward considering these issues that we're just discussing tonight?
I do, and I think that go Commissioner McGuire. Well, even yourself over here, he's had some concerns about development and planning, and you, for a precedent, and we always kind of think of a precedent maybe as a negative thing, but maybe our vote over here would be a positive precedent for future businesses to come to Mount Pleasant, getting some more business around here, creating some more jobs. But I do see that, we are considering these things on the planning.
Because I think we recognize this is one kind of business, but I think we can conceive of some businesses that you would not like to follow up on this as a precedent and have a similar sort of situation going on.
Time will tell, I guess.
I was gonna say, I'm missing something, but okay. There are a lot of fast food places that can't come to Mount Pleasant because they can't fit on Mission Street.
Right, yeah, I'm not talking fast food, I'm talking
Right.
about even, non-food and drink kind of establishments that,
I see.
Fair enough.
maybe purveying certain kinds of drugs that be too easy to,
Oh, to drive through.
And that's a concern that I have, that they don't come in the back door because of this. And it doesn't have anything to do
I don't
necessarily.
think you're
per
gonna
se
see a
with
whole
this.
lot more of that
I was
development.
gonna say,
I didn't think we would
we've
see
had
more
quite a
than we
few
did,
in
but-
already, and,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that would require a lot of investment.
you're right.
Yeah. Okay, further discussion. I would suggest that what we do is take up that last variance first, the last variance request with the main entrance to be placed in the side elevation rather than in the front. Because we've had cases like that before, where it does make perfect sense, such as the most recent one was the dentist's office here on Broadway. So in terms of finding a fact, let's take that one up
Don't we have
first.
to do this first and then find fact? I thought and maybe I misunderstood. I thought we make the motion and then we find the fact.
Well, you can do it either way,
Okay.
actually.
All right.
The important thing is you don't want to have a vote until you've established finding a fact.
Well, yeah,
So,
but
Yeah, okay.
Robert's Rules of Order say you gotta have a motion to talk about it, quite frankly, but
Well,
anyway.
no, that was the case.
We don't
You
do
couldn't even
things
talk
that
about
way here, I
Yeah,
guess.
if you'd like to have a motion, fine, let's have a motion. You can do it either way.
I just get really confused. Well, really, you can't,
Yeah, well,
quite frankly. Here, you guys apparently can, but we're supposed to be working on Robert's Rules of Order and you can't.
Yeah, except Robert's Rules of Rules is modified because the positive motion thing wouldn't be.
But you gotta make a motion before you can talk about it.
There's a sample motion that I can bring over here so we
Why
can
don't you
talk
do that?
about it.
Let's do that. I move to approve case number ZBA 2402, filed by Dennis Proto, it says it twice, by Dennis Proto on behalf of Brew Horizons LLC, seeking variances from section 154.405 for regulations contained in the CD5 district to construct a new 7-brew coffee drive-through business at 1203 South Mission Street for the following variances. Now, which one are we not? Number 4, we're not.
Number 4, we're not. Right.
Yeah, so it's number 3.
So you want me to say 3 first?
I think so, yeah. I think that's
We're
the
gonna-
one we have a track
We're gonna read through
record
this
on.
and do this all separately?
Yes.
Request to allow the main entrance to the building to be placed in the side elevation where it is required in the front facade.
Okay. And so then down the finding of fact, exceptional or ordinary circumstances, you all have this in front of you. I think that's pretty clear in terms of the nature of the business.
So are we not just doing all 3 of them at the same?
No,
Really?
apparently
I
not.
think we need to do separate.
I'm
Because
sorry,
there may be
I'm
people-
sorry, Peter, I find it absolutely.
Well, it may be, but in
Well,
terms of,
here, I guess my question is, I mean, we'll do this 3 times, and if, these gentlemen hit on 2 and not 3, is
Yeah.
it, they don't get to move forward, right? Are we just doing this?
that's correct. And I think
what's
that's
the
why you
point?
gotta
I
do
mean-
it. I think that's why you have to do it
What's the point of
separately.
doing it that way? If they gotta have all 3 of them, why wouldn't you just go through all 3 of them?
Well, you may want to have a difference in terms of the way in which the vote goes and things that they could further do to facilitate a
year from now?
modification. Or not, if, for the clarity of the record,
let's go.
if
I mean,
one,
I'll make the motion to do all three at the same time.
No, we'll do it, let's do it this way. Request to allow the main entrance to the building, we already said that.
Right.
So we're gonna go through and find fact on all three of these at three different times. Go ahead.
yeah, because you may find an issue of precedence
I assure
that would be
you I
different.
won't.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
there are
with
other
all,
people.
with all due respect, Commissioner Orlick, I think we can, you could state what you agree and don't agree upon, and when we do it all three, I think it's redundant to do it three separate times.
Okay, so if you could agree with one but not agree with the other, then the whole thing goes down, if you do it that
I
way.
think it does.
I think it does either way, if my understanding is
Well, I
that.
see, what he's saying is maybe we grant two of them and they figure out another way around one of them.
Exactly.
You know, I think we have to have a little faith in
I-
our staff, knowing that they've worked on this for months and there's no
Yeah.
way around it. This is it, but.
If you agree
let's do it
that,
that
if you
way.
agree that this should be here. You know,
Agreed.
because it's not necessarily us, it's people who will follow us on this board and will follow us in terms of ordinance drafts and redrafts. Okay? Okay, so we've covered one for this one. Preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right?
Well, it sounds like we're trying to take it away, but yeah.
Well, you're only gonna take
Explain
it
to me
away.
what that means.
Well, that means that the property per se has certain rights that go with us.
Right.
And that in terms of getting a variance requires you to properly use this property.
And right now,
And-
our ordinance makes it so it's almost impossible to use unless somebody comes in, puts an office there in a CD5
Exactly,
district.
exactly. So then you would say that, yeah,
So there you go.
Yeah.
There's your answer.
okay, and variance request is not one where they're so general or recurrent in nature as to make formulation of a general rule. And that
Well,
kind of
there's
goes,
lots there's lots of different uses for a property, so it's not a general rule.
and, you know, that kind of goes back to ultimately, maybe we'll have more clarity on that. Not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property. We're talking the Taco Bell and we're talking the office building.
Can't see how that would.
No, I don't see it.
And I think we have explored the situation with the access from this property. That would be probably the critical issue in terms of this. Authorizing of the variance will not materially impact the purposes of the chapter or the public interest. See the public interest problem?
It would not.
Okay. And the need for variance is not created by an action of the applicant. Because, of course, this is undeveloped property, well, not developed property at this point, okay? All right, so that, I think, pretty much takes care of that one. Is there other things you would like to add as we look at the first one? Or is it the same issues that you would see?
Do we need to read this again now? That's
No,
what I'm-
we just read them. I'm saying, is there anything
Well, we
different
didn't
as you
read
go
them.
through the
We didn't read
six?
them, Peter. We did this and then we read number 3. We have not read number 1 or
Okay,
2.
but I'm saying now that we're going back to 1 or 2, is there anything different you would say about any of those that would relate to, any of those finding of facts that would not relate to either 1 or to either 2? I still, you know, that's the way to keep them separate, once we've been through this once. So just take a minute to look through those. So the same conditions, the same situations you would find relate to those two as well.
Wouldn't you? I mean, do you see something different?
All right. So, any further discussion?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right. Manuela, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, just give me 1 second. Avels,
Vote, are we just so voting yea or nay?
Yes, nay, yeah.
Yea.
McGuire,
Yes.
Orlick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda. Old business, any old business?
Old business.
Oh, let's wait for Commissioner Stressman to get back up.
I don't think there is any, is there?
Well, we don't know.
Well, you know, it might take him.
I think
I would second the motion. You can
it
put
was
that I
sec- yeah,
second it.
That's how that went. Uh-huh.
Thanks, Susan.
Okay, old business?
Old business, we have nothing under old business, except that we are still waiting on the alternate member, so please
Yeah.
spread the word.
Yeah.
Oh, you still have one?
We don't have one.
Don't, I
We
mean,
do
you
not
don't have an
have one.
applicant.
There was an applicant, but I believe the applicant lived outside of town.
That's how we lost our.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
So we need to search more.
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's the only old business, is
Yes.
finding us an applicant, okay.
All right.
New business,
So the new business that we have today is the proposed 2025 meeting schedule. You can see the draft schedule in the packet, and you're going to see that all meetings were kept at the fourth Wednesday of each month, except for the November and December meetings that were moved to the third Wednesday of the month to avoid Thanksgiving and Christmas.
and this, of course, is pretty standard, what we've done in the last several years. Okay, is there a motion to approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2025?
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Sport.
okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting schedule as proposed has been approved for the year 2025. All right. And finally, anything else that anybody needs to bring?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Hold on, I gotta ask something.
What's up?
It's gonna drive me nuts, because I don't want this thing to get screwed up. We never read that whole motion. Is it in the minutes?
Yeah,
Well, I don't know why it would be, because we didn't read it. We skipped right over it. You said we had to go to, yes, sir. You said we have to go to number 3. We skipped the 2 of them. It has not been read into the minutes.
what do we have in the minutes
She
then?
might have typed it in there, but I didn't read it in there, and I don't want these people to get screwed because we didn't do it right.
Well, we'd like to
I
read the
just asked
motion
her a question.
again.
Let's
and
just see
then-
what she's got. Do you,
I just got the motion by McGuire, support by,
right.
and it's just.
You just used the boilerplate.
Number 3 was read. And then there was discussion regarding how it was gonna go down.
But we didn't read 1 and 2, did we?
No, we didn't.
And then it went to the facts of finding,
Mhm.
and then it was, let's go back to 1 and 2.
Okay.
It wasn't read out loud.
Yeah, they've never been read out loud.
All right,
Don't they need
Go
to
ahead.
be?
Oh, I need the,
Do they need to be or not? That's what I'm asking.
just to be safe, you can read it.
That's what I
mean,
think
we've been iterating, but that's fine.
So, I guess to amend the motion,
No, it's a new motion.
As long as these people are gonna be all right, I'm fine.
Well,
I'm so
just,
confused
let's
right now, I don't know what to do.
just have a new motion that covers the other two. Okay. Go ahead.
so can I just do a motion to amend the previous case number ZBA 24? Let me, okay, I'll read it into the record.
All right,
Yes.
All right. So move to approve case number ZBA 24-02 filed by Dennis Proto on behalf of Brew Horizons LLC seeking variances from section 154.405A for regulations contained in the CD5 district to construct a new 7-brew coffee drive-through business at 1203 South Mission Street for the following variances. 1, request to exceed the 15-foot front setback from the facade to 29 inches. 1, 2, sorry, I apologize.
29 feet,
29 feet
1 3/4.
to 1 3/4, thank you. My old professor over here, he's upset with me. 2, request to allow the drive-through opening for service to be placed less than 20 feet back from the front facade. 3, request to allow the main entrance to the building to be placed in the side elevation where it is required in the front facade. That's 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, you got 3 in there?
I did, just to make sure.
All right, okay.
Okay.
very good.
So would you like to second that? We'll do another vote?
Support.
Sure.
Okay. And then, Chair, do you want to
Yeah.
call for a vote?
Yeah, absolutely, right now.
All right.
Should I do roll
vote,
call?
please?
Yeah.
McGuire,
Yes.
Orlick,
Yes?
Havels.
Yes.
Okay,
We have a quorum.
all right.
I'm sorry, I just don't.
No,
want
that's
anything
okay. I
bad.
appreciate
I've
that.
seen things happen.
The neighbor comes and looks.
That's okay.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
motion
that's-
carries. Thank you.
that's okay.
We're all tired.
Anything else that needs to?
Might need a
come
coffee
before us?
after this.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath. Wait.
You don't have a machine.
This is it.
Car,
Yeah.
All right. And then I can move to adjourn.
After you can.
Okay. I'm going to move to adjourn.
All right. In favor?
Support.
Support.
Okay. Have a good Christmas, everybody.
Take care.
And we'll
Good luck, guys.
maybe see you next year. Depends on how our biggies go.
So,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I appreciate you, man. Best of luck. Thank you, guys. Thank you, of course.
Good luck.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you so much.